Welcome back to my channel Conquer the Fear. In this video, we are going to discuss one of the most tricky Java string interview questions asked in the real world. So, whenever you are attending any interviews, Java strings are the most frequently asked interview questions, and interviewer try to trick the interviewee by asking him different scenario-based questions on string and asking why exactly the string is immutable and lot other questions around it. So if you are here to thoroughly prepare every questions to be answered on string, then this is the right video because I'm going to explain you top 10 string based interview questions which interviewer ask you and try to tricks you. Now let's get started with the Java string interview questions. The very first thing or very important question is why is string immutable? Out of 10 interviews, 9 interviews would definitely have this particular question. So this particular question has to be prepared and there is no other way out. Now, why string is immutability? There are around four reasons. One is security, one is memory efficiency, and one is a caching algorithm, and one is thread safety. We will discuss about one by one how this immutability concept is related to all these particular four concepts. Now, when you are saying string is immutable, that means it is unmodifiable and unchangeable. So, primarily, there are reasons. First out of this is that security. Now, when strings are used, it is used for storing the sensitive information, whether you are storing username, password, or file path. So if strings were mutable in this case, then their value could have been altered and after the creation. So it is going to lead to the security vulnerabilities and issues. Now immutability is going to ensure that only the once object is created, its contents cannot be changed or tampered again. So that is what security is about. And second is thread safety. Now immutability is going to have that particular thread safety concept because their state cannot be changed once after the creation process. So that means if there are multiple threads operating on each of this particular thing, then it can safely share between the different threads and use the same thread objects across. You doesn't need to synchronize that particular explicitly. Now, in this case, it is going to simplify your concurrent programming over here. Then comes memory efficiency. Now, there is a concept of heap memory and the string pool. So, immutability is very, very crucial when it comes to functioning very efficiently. And also, the string pool is going to maintain that particular details over there. Now, uh, since the object is in the string pool, cannot be modified. Now, the multiple references can safely point to that same string literals. So, it is going to reduce the memory consumption and also it is going to avoid the duplicate object creation unnecessarily. So, in that case, it will be very, very memory efficient. Then comes caching. So when you are trying to frequently create or when the string is frequently using the key that is hashed up, so it is going to get that particular very frequently and it is going to be accessed frequently. So in that case, if you are trying to store the string in the hash map or a hash set, it is going to check that and it is based on that hash based collection, it is going to find that. Now if in this case if the string was mutable, then their hash code would always changed once it is has been inserted into the collection. So in that case it is going to be an incorrect behavior. Now because of immutability, the guarantee is that the hash code would remain the same throughout the object's life cycle. That's how immutability is related to. Now let's discuss the second question. What is string constant pool or SCP and why it was introduced? Now if you look at this string pool is another special memory area that is inside the heap memory. Now there is a special allocated space for it inside the string literal to store that particular string literals. Now if you take a look at this inside the heap, there is a location called SCP where it will be stored for the string literals constant pool. Now, why it was introduced to ensure that the reusability of an existing strings which objects which are already created, and also to optimize the memory usage over there when your application is trying to access and to increase your application performance. That's where actually these were used. Now when you're trying to store the unique literals inside that, then the JVM is going to avoid duplicate creations of that object along with the same content which were already created. Now it is going to save ton of memories when you're dealing with large objects. Now when you're trying to create a new literals in an even, or let's say you're trying to create a new string literals, and if it is already there, then the JVM will first check that in the SCP. If it is already existing, it will simply point to that particular reference and it will return that existing object to, instead of creating a new one. So that's how it saves the memory over there. Now if you look at this, this is how it is going to be. Let's say the S1 is been already created. Now it is pointing to hello over there. Now second S2 also is created with the same text. Now again it will not create a new object, it will point to that particular SCP over here only. So this is what actually it depicts, that it is going to prevent duplicate creation of objects, and it is going to save the memory. Now, how many objects are created in the following scenario? Now, interviewer might give you some code snippet, and I will try to understand whether you are thoroughly aware of the string concept. Also, when it comes to string, right? When you're dealing with string literals, when you're dealing with string object, when you're dealing with string interns, so basically all it goes up to, like, how many object has been created, where exactly it has been created, in which memory area, that revolves around that, and how many objects are created. Now let's take a scenario where the string s1 is equal to string the code. Now let's say there were no SCP, there was no code already there in the SCP. Now can you tell me how many objects would be created? In this case, there will be two objects created. One is created in the heap memory, that is referenced by the S1, and then the another one will be created in the code retrievers, that is written as in the code, which will be in the string constant pool inside the heap memory. Now that will be unreferenced, but that will be used in the future reference. But that will be the two objects will be created. So if the interviewer asks you, just ask him whether there was already a string pool already there in that particular string pool, or else if it is not there, then it will create two objects. Now if there is an scenario s1 is equal to code, now there is also s2 is equal to new string code. Now in this case, if there is again there is no scp is been created over here. Now there will be two objects will be created. In this case, again the first one will be created in the string constant pool, the one which is already the s1, and then the second one is going to create only one object, not two objects, because already in the string pool there is one object created. So it will only created in the heap memory, and the string literal will already point to that particular in the s1, that is the scp1. So that's how it will not create a new object in the string pool. Now let's take the scenario S3. Now S1 is equal to string code, then S2 is equal to new string code. Now again there is no string already. Now in this case, when you're calling the first one, it will create two objects as we already discussed. In the second case, only one object will be created as it is already there in the heap memory also. This one will be creating a new one actually, because this is a new string, and this will be, and the literal code will not be created again, because this is going to be again no creation of that object over there. That's how it solves it. Now what does the string intern method do? Now this is quite important. Many of the interviewees don't know about, like, what exactly the string intern does, and also they get confused, so they go blank out when these particular questions are asked about. Now this is one of the method which is used to put the string object inside the constant pool, that is string constant pool. Now whenever you call this, if it is going to first check if the same content is already there in that particular scp or not. If it is not, if it is existing, then it is going to return to that particular, the same reference is going to be returned to that particular object. Now if this particular object is not there, then it is going to create that object in the scp, and the reference will be added to that particular object in the newly scp, right? Now what is the purpose? As we already discussed, it is going to facilitate that particular reusability concept of string object, and it is going to save ton of memory. and also it is going to improve your performance. So if there are too many identical strings, it will save a lot of time of creation, memory, and etc. So in this case, again, if you see the code, the new string code, now this will point to the scp, this will point to the scp and the code in the scp. And then when you call this particular SN, now this will be going to point to the SCP. Now in this case, as I mentioned, when you call this, it is going to be created in the string pool. Now if it is already there, it will point to that. Now if you compare this one with this one, it is definitely going to be the same, because S1 is again pointing to this code only, so hence it will return true. And this one, when you're comparing these two, as it is a new code and this is also a different thing, this is going to return a two different things, and hence it is going to return a false. So it is not equal to seeing, they're not pointing to the same reference if you see the equality operator. Now how you can prove string immutability with Java code example? So you will try to ask us like how you can prove that there is string is immutable. Can you show as an example? Now he might trick you that he'll give you some scenario and he will try to concatenate and the string is got changed. Then how you can say that it is immutable? Now you can actually prove that by demonstrating with simple example. What you do, you create one string over here where let's say conquer, and then what you try to do, you print it with some hash code over here. Then what you do, you try to concatenate this and assign it to the S1, and then you create the new instance. Now here there will be a new instance will be created and it is pointing to a different object. Now again you try to compare this particular two hash code, this will definitely be a different object and a different hash code. So that is the reason. So now you can actually tell them that when you concatenated this, Java is not going to modify the already conquer. What it is going to create a new object over there, and then it is going to return that reference to that thing. So hence, once you call this particular thing, then there is a reference being reassigned to that thing, not modifying that thing. So the original conquer is still there. And now once you remove that reference, and if it is not pointed by some other object, it will be available for the garbage collection. So the pre-pointing will be pointing to some other object in case of earlier previously pointing to the conquer. I hope it is clear. How do you compare the two strings in Java? Now you can explain the difference between these two equal to and also the equals, because it is very important to explain this, because it is going to denote whether you are aware of this particular concept or not. Now when you're comparing with double equal to, it is going to compare the memory address over there. So the reference where exactly this particular object is stored is going to that. So only if the two references which are pointing to the same exact memory object in the memory, then only it will return true in this case. Now if you are comparing with dot equals, if it will only compare the content of the character or the sequence of characters over there. If the objects are same, then it is going to return true regardless if it is pointing to the saved memory or not, it doesn't matter. But if it is the string is same, it is going to return the same thing. Now if you see here, this is going to be string equals. Now if you try to do this is going to obviously return the false. But when you compare this particular equals, it is going to return true over here. Now interviewer might also ask you how many ways you can create objects in the string objects basically. So now you can that there are two ways to create. Basically you can also create it with the intern also. Intern as it like it will be pointing to that as well, but obviously you can create it. But first is literal and the second is the new keyword. Now that's how we discussed, right? So when you're creating this, it will first, I mean, we already discussed JVM will first check if it is already present in the SCP or not. If not, it will create it. If it is already present, it will again same point to that. So the reusability and the memory efficiency comes in picture when it comes to the string constant pool. Then the new is going to be always going to be creating the new in the heap memory only, regardless whether there already exist in same content, whether it is going to be exist in the SCP or whether there was an already object in the SCP or heap memory. So that is always the process of creation. So every time it will create, but other every time if the same constant is there in the SCP, it will not create. Only in the heap memory it will create. So that's how it is going to be different. Now, what is string join? Now, in Java 8, this is one of the methods which has been introduced. Now this is one of the utility method introduced in Java, so that you can concatenate certain collections, certain character sequence, like for with a specified delimiters. Let's say you want to add certain comma to n number of objects. Whether you want to do some additions, space addition, then you want to certainly form in a readable format. In that case, you can concatenate using this particular manual. So instead of manually creating the manual string builder or a buffer, you can make use of this join method and you can create that. I will just example show you. Now if you see here, there is an array of these three elements over here. Now if I do a string join, along with that I'm trying to add a comma, then ultimately it is going to present this particular thing. It is going to be heavy. Now for this, if you know, prior to Java 8 you had to write a for loop, or you had, in Java 8 you can also use some joining over there as well. But earlier, prior to this, if it was not there, you had to write a for loop explicitly and manually handle these scenarios. Also some if loops and etc was added, so it was quite uh, boilerplate code to be written over there. Now, in this case, if you, instead of this hyphen, you can actually comma, you can hyphen is going to be added. So in that case, you can use it. So if interviewer asks you what is exactly join, then you can clearly answer this. Now there are trim, strip, and strip leading, trailing methods in Java which has been introduced. Now these are used for removing the white space in your string, the characters in your string. Now there are differences when it comes to the white spaces and their availability. Now when you're calling trim, the leading is going to remove the leading and the trailing ASCII white characters inside it. Okay, so it was introduced in the earlier Java version only, but yeah, now this strip method was introduced in Java 11. Now this is going to remove the trailing and the leading one. Now the Unicode whitespace character will be removed over here. Now it is much more. It is an alternative to the one which was there as a trim, because it is going to handle the Unicode whitespace character also in this. So it will not, non-breaking spaces are there, so you can actually use them. So you can see that in a character dot is white space character, have to check like that. But you can remove this particular white space character over here. Now strip leading is there. This is again introduced in Java 11. Now this is going to remove the leading Unicode. Strip trailing, it is going to remove the trailing one. So in this way, you can make use of this particular method instead of writing a certain logic to manually cover this particular logic of removing it. Now this might also be one of the interview questions. Let's say I wanted to remove some certain leading space. How we can do that? So you can answer there is a strip leading or a strip trailing available. Now, how does the string override the hash code and the equal method? Now, this is one of the important questions. I would say definitely get prepared for this. Now this is going to be one of the fundamental questions, because this is basically the contract between the hash code and the equals. Now if you are not aware, you should be definitely aware of the hash code and the equals contract. So let's say the equality object is there. Now if you are overriding this is going to compare the content of that particular character rather than the memory it is going to point it. So to two strings which are only considered equals if they have in the same sequence of character. Now hash code. Now when you are overriding this particular method, it is going to produce the hash code based on the content of that particular string. Now there is a computer based calculation happening on that particular character within the string. So it is going to ensure that the equal string is always producing the same hash code no matter how many times you call it. So that is the reason the equals and the hash code has to be overridden in your custom class, so that when you're trying to compare it with the double equal to or the equality, it actually checks for the correct equality, and then it gives you the correct output of it. I hope I was able to explain you the important string Java based interview questions, and these are one of the important questions. If you want it to be thoroughly prepared, just go through this video once more, so that you are thoroughly prepared. If this video was helpful, please share it with the needy people. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Thank you for watching.